kindly take your seats? Shh. Try to keep us on schedule. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, Taoiseach and Mrs. Kenny, friends of Ireland, relatives of Ireland, I want to wish you all Céad Míle Fáilte. How was that? All right. Yeah. I got to make the folks back in Graiguenamanagh proud, you know. So I love this day. I love this event. This is the time of year where we celebrate the spirit and the splendor of a small but special island tucked in the North Atlantic. A small island generous enough to share the glorious St. Patrick and, of course, the glorious Guinness. Days like this, they take me back to my own family's visits to Ireland. Everyone is just so easygoing there, I got to tell you. And when your name is Paul Ryan, you can really blend in. Not always, though. One time I was in a pub talking to this fellow. I tell him my name. He says, "Oh, Paul Ryan, you're the hurler from Ballyboden." I said, "No, I'm the musician from Wicklow." These are real guys, by the way. The Irish are so passionate about their music, and the Irish are so passionate about their sports. There's actually a story they tell in Kilkenny, which is where my family comes from, about a family that's out for dinner. The father calls the waiter over and says, "Sorry, lad, my son spilled the water." And the waiter says, "No problem, sir, I'll get you a new one." The father grabs the waiter's arm and says, "Okay, but make sure this one likes hurling." Takes a second for those to sink in. Look, my family comes from Kilkenny, as I said, so I had to go with a hurling joke. It's funny, though. I always try to give an Irish joke every year, and I asked my staff, give me a good list of Irish jokes to choose from for this lunch. And so they did that, and at the top of the list it says, number 1, your Irish accent. What can I say? You know. Americans, especially American Irish, are always trying to endear ourselves to the Irish. Think about it. We went from a president who plays a lot of golf to a president who owns a lot of golf courses. And that is about the closest thing to royalty you can get in Ireland. To my friend Enda, on Taoiseach, on behalf of the Congress, I want to thank you for your steadfast leadership. When I think about all the work that you did to set up a government, coming in after the crash, to turn the economy around, the endless demands, the long nights, the early mornings, the backbiting from the backbenchers, and you've made it how long in this job? 6 years? Bravo. You may have the luck of the Irish, truly. Bravo. So we're glad you made it here in spite of the delay from the snowstorm. It kind of reminds me of a story of my own great-great-grandfather, James Ryan, and my great-great-grandmother, Catherine O'Shea, from Graiguenamanagh. Like so many, they came here when the potatoes stopped growing. James worked the railroad until he had enough money to buy land, a farm. And it so happened that as he worked the railroads, he ended up outside of Janesville, Wisconsin. And it was summer. And he looked around and he said, "Wow, this looks like Ireland. I'm going to settle here." And then came winter. And he basically said, "Oh, crap." But we've been making a go of it ever since. And my family has been there ever since. But the closest point from here to Ireland shores is at Loophead, where there's this very old lighthouse. And in the 20s and the 30s, the light was kept by another James McGinley. He was among the first in his family to get an education and to go beyond the farm. He played the fiddle. He enjoyed stout after Mass, and he loved to fish. And today, his grandson is the 13th Prime Minister of Ireland. Ireland may be a small island, but look at all she has given us. Her light floods the world. To America, She is, as George Washington himself said, friend of my country in my country's most friendless day. That says it right there. In that spirit, I would like to offer a toast. To what our forefathers have started and our children will continue, may the light always shine upon them. Sláinte. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to drink the whole thing, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is my honor and privilege to introduce a great leader and a great friend of the Irish people, the President of the United States. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Speaker Ryan, for that wonderful toast, although I've heard better jokes. And thank you to all of our friends and distinguished members of Congress for joining us here today. Great honor, and a really great honor to be with you, Vice President Pence. You have been terrific. And all of our friends welcoming Taoiseach. That's my new friend. This is my new friend. This is a great guy. And Fiola, you know, you are something very special. We sat, we talked, and I think we're friends now too, right? And it's really an honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Vanilla. Appreciate it. Also, the delegation members, very, very special. We've spent some time together, and we're going to have a very, very great long-term relationship, as we would with Ireland anyway, but this is a very special group, so I very much appreciate it. We're here today to celebrate America's commitment to Ireland and the tremendous contributions, and I know it well, the Irish immigrants and their descendants have made right here in the United States and throughout the world. The very first St. Patrick's Day parade, I spent a lot of time at St. Patrick's Day parades over the years, I will tell you that, was held in my hometown, New York City, on March 17th, 1762. With each subsequent year, the Irish people marched past another accomplishment and celebrated another very hard-earned success. And they have had tremendous success all over the world, but in this country, they have had tremendous success. Over the years, they marched past the beautiful St. Patrick's Cathedral, now an immortal monument to the faith of Irish Catholics in America. They celebrated their shared success in American society with the election of John F. Kennedy. They fought for America in war and combat, and their battlefield courage has earned admiration and acclaim throughout the world. They have great courage. The proud tradition that started in 1762 has flourished and is now celebrated by Americans of all faiths and backgrounds all across our very beautiful and very special land. As we stand together with our Irish friends, I'm reminded of that proverb, and this is a good one. This is one I like. I've heard it for many, many years, and I love it. Always remember to forget the friends that proved untrue, but never forget to remember those that have stuck by you. We know that, politically speaking. A lot of us know that. We know it well. It's a great phrase. The people of Ireland and the people of the United States have stuck together through good times and bad times. Over many centuries, we have built a bond that thrives, inspires, and endures. And with us, it's going to be closer than ever before, I can tell you that. So as we celebrate our shared history and our enduring friendship, let us commit ourselves to working together, as we will, to build on that bond to the benefit of our citizens for many more generations to come. Thank you, God bless you, and may God always keep and lasting friendship and relationship. We love Ireland and we love the people of Ireland. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. It is now my pleasure to introduce An Taoiseach, our friend, Enda Kenny. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, members of Congress, ambassadors, friends of Ireland, distinguished guests. Is cúiseáthas domsa agus do bhean chéile fanúla, bheith an seo live in you. Son rialtas agus muintir na héireann, banach na féile Pádraig Oribh Galéir. I didn't say anything disparaging about you there. What I said was, it's a pleasure for me to be here, along with my wife, Fionnuala, to be amongst this august gathering. And on behalf of the Government of Ireland and the people of Ireland, I wish you all a very happy St. Patrick's Festival for you all. They say the Irish have the capacity to change everything. I just saw the President of the United States read from his script entirely. I was going to say change is coming, but Paul, it's a pleasure. And thank you for your visit to Ireland when you called to see me in government buildings with your family and on your visit down to Kilkenny. When I had the privilege of speaking to the President on the telephone very shortly after his election, I said to him if it would be possible to continue this tradition which began so many years ago. And he said without hesitation, of course, followed by the Vice President and you as Speaker. This is a unique occasion for Ireland and for its people to have the facility of being honoured by the Speaker of the House, the access to the President of the United States, the Vice President, and most of the team is something that we really do cherish. It goes back a very long way from when Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan and all of the others put this together in the first place. So it's a really important day for us, and we're very grateful to stand between these two flags, united in history and so much. I haven't had the opportunity to present you with a particular piece of sculpture which is entitled Arrival by John Behan. It's a miniature, but it's quite large, of what stands outside the United Nations in New York, of the tale and the story and the history of Irish emigrants after the famine years. So let me congratulate you, President Trump, on your election. You beat them all. Whatever they say. Elections are tough going. I know I've been through 20 of them myself. But the President and the Vice President and this administration now holds within its hands the responsibility of dealing with so many global international issues in a world that is changing so rapidly, that is so fragile in so many respects, and I know that you will do your utmost to work in the interests of our common humanity, and you will have the prayers and the support of the Irish people. And let me say to you, on the European Union, in the work that you have to do in the challenging times ahead. We discussed the kind of driver that the President uses: tight list, 9-degree loft, dune bag, wind off the Atlantic. You have to roll the wrists at the top to get that shot straight. And during the course of this presidency, President Trump will visit Ireland, and he said he would put the sticks in the hold of the Air Force One. Anyway, let me just say a few words here about our country. We've come through a torrid time a number of years ago. When I took over the government back in 2011, we were blocked out of all the markets. The Troika were in town, our sovereignty was gone, our hope was gone, hemorrhage of emigration, and a fall-off in all business right across every sector. Now, because of the sacrifices of the people and tough choices made, we're in a different spot. Unemployment, which was 15.2, is now down to 6.6% and falling. Employment is the highest in 10 years. A growth rate of 5.2% last year. 4th year running, Ireland's the fastest growing country in Europe. Deficit eliminated next year. 2 million plus working now. I was accused in Cork 3 weeks ago of blocking up the Irish roads with people going to work. That's a challenge of success, I suppose. It's fair to say, as you know, Mr. President, we've got 700 Irish firms. 65% of the 700 firms working in America have a full-time presence in this market, and they now employ 100,000 people across 50 states. And that's because of our participation in the European Union and the confidence that our people have to expand now beyond their own shores. And this two-way conduit is to the mutual benefit of our people and of the United States. And let me say that Ireland and the European Union will never be anything but a friend to your country, to these United States here. And I want you to understand that all administrations over the last 40 years and beyond have worked in the interests of the fragility of our country. We've had our troubles. We've had real difficulties. And George Mitchell spoke last night at the Ireland Funds about the contribution that both Europe and particularly the United States made towards putting that fragile piece together. I'm glad to see Ian Paisley here, and indeed Gerry Adams, who have had their difficulties. But we've put it all together and have maintained a fragile peace, and that's why it's important that we recognise the contribution made by the United States to that peace, where we have no border and where people can live their lives as one would expect to contribute to their country and their economies. And all presidents and all administrations over the years have assisted us in that regard. While we So we want to protect this peace process, and I know that you're going to work with us in that context also. We have agreed with the British government that there would be no return to the border as it used to apply years ago, with customs posts on major roads and every other road blown up or impassable because of sectarian violence that brought with it. We have banished that. We want to see it remain banished, and the political agreement is no return to that kind of border of the past, and the challenge is to implement that in a way that works in the interests of the people north and south. And let me say to you that as a member of the European Council, what we want to do is to work with America. I believe genuinely, with Europe having created 4.5 million jobs in the last 3 years, that we can work with the United States to create more employment here, create opportunities for so many millions of Americans, and it may well be that in a revised trade agenda that we can do that to the mutual benefit of 500 million people in the European Union and your population here across the United States. We will work with this administration, Paul and Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, in the interests of everybody. Thank you, Peter King, and thank you, Richie Neal. I know you're here somewhere for the work you've done over the years with the Northern Ireland people. it may well be that it might be appropriate for the government and the administration to have a desk here in Washington which will associate itself with Northern Ireland, so that in the event of contact having to be made, that there's a voice to answer that. You had in the past envoys appointed to Northern Ireland on practically a full-time basis. I think we can work now as a priority to get this executive up and running in the next short period, but to have continued connection here with the administration will be very important, and I'm sure Peter and Richie will work at that. I just want to say I had a very good this morning with the Vice President and with General John Kelly, sitting at the table. We were hosted by the Vice President in the traditional breakfast in the Naval Observatory. Didn't get much chance to eat the breakfast, I have to say. It's one of the difficulties in politics. It's in front of you, but you can't get near it. We did discuss the question of immigration, which is so important to the fabric of our people. And I know that in this country this is an issue that the administration and the President are reflecting upon. And that's something that, again, we will work with you diligently in this regard. In the two sectors that we used to have a facility for E3 visas for young people who want to come to America and to work here, we discussed that very constructively this morning. And secondly, as a part of the overall immigration reform, that the Irish who've contributed so much would be part of that, and we look forward to the works that will take place at the time ahead. I might say that when Mike Pence's grandfather landed here in Ellis Island in 1923, that the contribution had been made by so many Irish for so many years. It was in 1771 that the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick were put together in Philadelphia. And one of their first honorary members was a young man called George Washington. And 7 years later, he handed the first commission to a naval officer called John Barry, who was co-founder of the American Navy. And he was joined later by John Holland, who designed the first submarine. And he was followed by Louis Brennan from my hometown, who had a major impact on the navigation systems for torpedoes, and so many others, from Henry Ford through music and culture and so many other areas. The 22 members of the American presidents who sat in the White House had either Scots or Irish blood in them, and you follow in that line, sir. And I'd just like to say in finality, this is what I said to your predecessor on a number of occasions. We would like this to be sorted. It would remove a burden of so many people that they can stand out in the light and say, now I am free to contribute to America as I know I can. And that's what people want. So, I know you'll reflect on this, but I'm always struck by the American national anthem when it's sung before the great occasions. And I suppose, being an emotional Irishman, the hairs tingle at the back of your neck when you hear your own national anthem. But for us, you know, when Old Glory waves and you put your hand on your heart and you say the land of the free and the home of the brave, ours is still as brave as ever, but maybe not as free, because of the 4,000 Congressional Medals of Honor given out to the Defence Forces, over 2,000 went to the Irish Americans. So they fought in the Revolutionary War. They beat the daylights out of each other in Fredericksburg and Gettysburg and Oaktown and other places, in Atlanta. They fought every war for America and died for America, and will continue to do so. All they want is the opportunity to be free. And this administration, working with Democrats and Republicans, I hope can sort this out once and for all. And for future years, you determine what it is that you want to do. As George Mitchell said last evening, you can't return to open immigration. But for the people who are here, who should be here, might be here, that's an issue that I'm sure your administration will reflect on. And we in Ireland will give you every assistance in that regard. There are millions out there who want to play their part for America, if you like, who want to make America great. You heard it before? You heard that before? So, I see Vicky here in front of me. We didn't get as far as the Kennedy Centre the other evening. I was talking to young people the other day. They were on about all the different things that are happening in the world. and I reminded them of one of JFK's statements. This is our planet. Together we shall save it, or we shall perish in its flames. We have work to do. Let's eat. Thank you.